is a special night here, and you're listening to Defense of America with William B. Strong. Special guest hosts are going to join me here this evening, and it's going to be a diverse bunch of opinions. And that's what we want, because in America, which we have division, it's very important that we listen to all sides of all arguments. So let me invite these guys in right now. First of all, I want to welcome Bob, and I want to welcome Patriot Phil to the broadcast. Bob is going to be in voice only, and Patriot Phil, you can see his ugly mug right there now. So, guys, how are you doing out there?
We're doing great. Well,
Great.
Thank you for having me for the show here. So,
Okay.
I am so impressed with the technology. By the way, I mean this is just overwhelming to me. So,
well, I just missed the startup button as I was going through my gear, so yeah. I was a little late on the startup myself. Bob, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm just saying, watch out, Tucker Carlson. Okay. He's about to be overtaken by this show.
Well, let's hope so. You know, we build one viewer at a time, my friends. We build one viewer, and we hope, and for all of our viewers out there who will come and join our organization here, is we want to tell you that hopefully both Patriot Phil and Bob and a few other guests that we may bring on this program will be regulars on here if possible. And so let's kick things off. First of all, Bob, you want to give us a little background on yourself, sir?
Yeah, I can a little bit. I retired from federal law enforcement, and I also did a little anti-terrorism work at the Pentagon. And then when I was in contract work, I worked for a few years in counterintelligence for the Defense Department. That's about pretty much.
Okay, that's great. That's great, Bob. And we're glad, and we look forward to your comments on any issues that come up here. Phil, Patriot Phil, tell us a little bit about your background, sir.
Oh, well, I'm a native New Englander who went to UConn, and that's close.
We won't hold that against you.
Yeah, okay.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not unless they win the national championship in basketball and beat Florida State in the NCAA. Then you'll be mad. But I was a state employee for the state of Connecticut, and I worked for the Department of Mental Retardation for many years until that was politically incorrect, and we changed it to the Department of Developmental Services. I was a case manager there who made sure people got their services. So I was in enforcement of rules and regulations within a state government. And we worked with the federal government and Medicaid programs too. So I can give a little background I have a lot of background in that kind of area. So.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, again, welcome to you both. So let's get right into it. Let's just dump into the pig's trough here, as I might say. And let's start with the first thing that has been all over the news, obviously, and that is President Biden's trip to the Ukraine. Secret trip, slides out of Washington and slides into Kyiv in the Ukraine to meet with President Zelensky there at the palace. And I guess from what I hear, DC picked up the phone, called the Russians and said, by the way, we're going in there and we're going in on a train. So let's not have any hiccups in this. And so I want to get your guys' opinions about, and let's start with Bob here. Bob, what's your opinion of President Biden's trip to the Ukraine, and what significance would you see to him going there?
Well, it's a big photo op, and he's wants to run again for president. So this is why he's trying to act like he's tough. So they had the sirens running constantly while he was there, the air raid sirens, which was comical because some experts had pointed out that they were not wearing any kind of protective equipment, no helmets, no vests of any kind, and no one was looking up and worried about anything coming in. So clearly that was to add theater to the photo op. So he went there when he should have been, I feel, in America attending to a very serious situation in East Palestine. And instead of romping over there with, and I know it's not going to be popular for me to say this, but he's his paymasters from Ukraine through his son. It's clear that he took bribes. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, having been in investigations for years, that he took bribes from multiple countries, but also Ukraine, and through his son, and through China. And China traditionally, from what I understand, pays bribes through the relatives. I'll let somebody else speak now.
Okay, go ahead, Phil. What's your thoughts on this before we break it
I
wide open?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It was a photo op, pure and simple, but it was tremendously symbolic for them, for the Ukraine, and for America. And it was a big step. I mean, you had to have security. You had to have planned this months ago, and how they kept it secret was beyond belief, but they did. And I agree. The Palestine thing is really important. But this was an opportunity to take a step and tell Putin that, look, we're in it for the long haul, and he's not going to back down, at least not in the near future. I mean, who knows if this drags on for years? Who knows what's going to happen? But he had to have taken advantage of this and planned it. And I thought it was pretty ballsy on his part. You know?
Now, Bob, you seem to be suggesting that the air raid thing was a total setup for the photo op. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Okay. It's funny. Phil, do you agree with that or disagree with that?
I did. First of all, I didn't know about that, and second of all, maybe it was. I don't know, but
yeah. Well, what it was is they were walking.
I don't hold any importance to that. I don't think anybody was really impressed by the air raid sirens. They were impressed by him being there, and so that was pretty important. Yeah.
That's an interesting take, Phil. That's an interesting take. I think what Bob's saying, and I don't want to speak for you, Bob. I'm going to say that if the air raid signals, right, which doesn't surprise me if it was a ploy to make it look very important for the president to be there, and the signals are going off, and
that is an actual war zone.
In a war zone. But if it was, the national news obviously reported it as well. This is a natural occurring thing, that it was certainly not staged in that regard. Now, Bob, is that just an opinion, or you heard that someplace as well?
I did hear it on a very good talk show, by the way, and they spent a lot of time on that particular issue today. But it also reminded, which I don't know if they mentioned this, but it reminded me of Hillary claiming that she was under sniper fire at one point, which was all a hoax. There was no sniper fire, and she made it up.
Yeah, so there's no way he was that close to any kind of battlefield. I mean, there's no way they put the president of the United States in that kind of danger. So I mean, why would they report that?
Yeah, I think this is the issue, that if they had communicated, which came out, that they had communicated with the Russians weren't going to upset this. They're not going to lob some missiles in there and do something that's really going to spark a huge event. To me, if they staged the event with the sirens going off, to me that's deception. Anyway, I don't care who it is. It could have been Trump there, could have been Biden there. These things go on for photo ops. Okay, these types of things go on.
Absolutely.
And it's wrong. I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong, though.
When a world leader goes into a war zone, it's a photo op. That's what they're not going to put him in danger. So
right, but the whole thing of staging an air raid signal, I think is kind of
you hope it's a morale booster when somebody does that.
Yeah, I think what it is, though, it's a little misleading for the people that are viewing this on the major national news, and they acknowledge it as well. There's an extreme amount of danger here, which gets portrayed when it really isn't. To me, that's deception. And I don't care who the president is.
It's absolutely unnecessary. Yeah, I mean,
it's unnecessary. Why do it? Why do it? Now,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Bob. Go ahead.
Well, there's other issues too. He goes over there. Okay, what's the plan with this war? The United States doesn't seem to have anything outlined that what we're looking for with our massive investment that continues to grow. Yeah. I mean, we dumped depending on who you listen to, $80 billion worth of stuff with the terrorists, the Taliban. So he lost a lot of equipment there. And then we have all the equipment we're giving him. We're depleting our resources. I would think that if he was going to accomplish anything, that would have been a good time to say, this is what we want to see happen. But it's not. It's a handshaking, backslapping thing. It's just useless.
Well, I'm not sure if it was totally useless, Bob, because Biden made some very big statements there. And one of those statements, whether we'll see if you guys agree or disagree, and you just brought it up, is we're not backing away. He clearly said that we're not backing away. And he clearly said the Russians will not win this.
Yeah, but what does that mean?
Those are pretty strong statements.
What does winning mean? That's the whole point that I'm making.
Winning means that the Russians won't gain any more territory or surrender from the Ukraine, I think.
But I don't want to hog the thing because I want.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
But I was going to say, does that mean Crimea, everything back, or just the stuff that from the recent war? So those are the things that are all kind of, it's very vague to say they're not going to win. Win what? Okay, so I'm going to get out of here and let you talk.
Go ahead, Phil.
Well, I think he's just saying we're not going to give up Ukraine, and he's not letting Putin overtake Ukraine. I didn't hear of any other countries or any other issues that he was addressing. I mean, he was saying we're in it for the long haul, and we're not going to allow this country to be overrun by Russia.
But we did.
That was my understanding.
Under Obama, we lost the eastern part of Ukraine, a large amount of it, and we allowed that. And so when I'm listening to somebody talk like that, what does that mean? If he just invaded Ukraine for the first time and hadn't taken, then I could understand we want him out of Ukraine. And I would love for the Russians to be out of Ukraine as well, all of Ukraine. But what is our position on that? Are we going to stay, which we cannot afford to do, until we force them out of all of Ukraine? And they deserve to be forced out, but they're a big country and we can't afford it. We're depleting all our resources. We don't have the money to do this. So we have to be practical.
He's going to have to be more open about what the long run plan is.
Well, I think he was open, guys. Yeah. I think he was open that we are going to back the Ukrainians.
Well, Bob
until they're overwhelmed, huh?
Yeah. Are there new weapons or technologies that they're planning on using? He's not being open about that.
Well, here's my argument. Here's my thoughts. Okay, is this? I think he laid down some very defining statements, and as Bob says, and Phil, you're on. Is what does all that mean? I think he's saying we are not going away until the Russians are forced to stop fighting.
Yeah.
Okay. We are going to supply. Now, I've been making this point very bluntly on the Twitter account for Defense of America. And that is this. We are in a war. How are we not engaged in a war? We are engaged in a war except for putting boots on the ground. Absolutely. We are supplying weapons, ammunition, uniforms, supplies, and all of that. And I believe Biden said, we're not going anywhere. He announced that to the world in Poland today. And he, during his administration for the next 2 years, he has now committed himself to spend the money. And he told the American people there that it's going to be tough and it's going to be costly, which these wars are.
But it's not clear. And I keep coming back to this because it's very important. He can say, we're going to be with you to what? What is our goal? Do we have a goal of going back to where they hold the stuff that they had before the invasion a year ago? Or remember, Zelensky wants regime change in Russia. Are we in for that? What is this? And we don't know, and they don't say.
Yeah. I think
that's important.
Yeah. I had a figure here, Bob. You'd mentioned it, how much money has already spent. And I've got it here. I try to flash it up. It's not.
Is it 115 billion? I've heard that.
Okay, here's how many zeros are. Let's say there's 9 zeros up front. What the hell is that? I can't even read it. 100
billion.
$113 billion.
Yeah, I heard about 115, so 113 sounds good.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
$113 billion is the estimate that has gone out so far, and he just pledged, I think, another $500 million.
Okay.
But they're sending, they're basically depleting our older stuff, military supplies, tanks, weapon systems, because the only way the Ukrainians have a chance is if the U.S. and NATO supply them with ammunition. And ammunition, weapons, vehicles. Without that, they're going to collapse.
I do agree with Bob, though. I think there has to be a long range. What is the final? Do we want to draw Russia back into the negotiating table? And do we want to say, okay, we will, like you said, Bob, do we want to go back to original borders, or do we accept what they were at the start of this war? Or will Ukraine have to negotiate a little bit more in better faith than they are? I don't know.
Okay, well,
you're right, Bob. They need to be more upfront. What is the long haul? What's the end result going to look like? What do we want?
And
and Congress, I think, should weigh in on that but nobody knows what to weigh in on because nobody knows where we're going.
Well, isn't there bipartisan support right now for the money?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
I think. Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Bob.
No, I don't want to interrupt Phil. I'm trying to. The answer is yes, but there's bipartisan support for this vague idea of, saving Ukraine. But do they really know what it is they're funding or supporting beyond some vague idea?
Well, time will tell. I mean, as long as Biden's in office and the people who are represented by their representatives via their senators and congressmen, as long as they hear, okay, we're willing to spend this, and then Biden in office, and in 4 years or 2 years, the next presidential election, they'll get a chance to, express their displeasure. If we say, well, we're not happy with what's going on in Ukraine, let's vote for somebody else. But I think for the next 2 years, nothing, we're going to support Ukraine.
Let me switch it just a little bit. China is mentioning they may, or the word has come out, they may start supplying, lethal support to the Russians' effort. Thoughts on that?
Phil, go ahead.
Go ahead, Bob.
Okay. Well, I do have some thoughts on that. I do listen to a lot of, and I read a lot of articles, and I guess there's a general, at least in conservative circles, there's a feeling that China wants to sit back, watch us drain our resources, and Russia drain their resources so they can come out on top and basically be hardly involved whatsoever. So to date, they love us using up our resources, especially in the context of Taiwan and what they may have to do there or want to do there, they meaning the Chinese. So now, so they'll give some money, or some weaponry, to Russia to keep this thing going, because the more we're fighting each other, they love it. So I guess that's the overview.
How does the United States, Anthony Blinken, Secretary of State, have the gumption basically to go to the Chinese and say, you better stay out of this, or
I don't.
How does that play out if you're the Chinese?
I don't know. I have thoughts about talking to businesses that do business in China and say, how can we change things there to make it less profitable for China? That you get into economic warfare. That's going to be, they better plan this well, because they've got to have a reaction, though. They can't just let this happen. It just can't happen. And Blinken's going to have to, and the whole, the Treasury Department, they're all going to have to come up with some kind of a plan to say, we need to address this with China. We can't let this happen. All you people who have factories in China, you may want to rethink this. And we as Americans, we need you to support us on this.
The problem we have is that there are so many Americans, politicians, sports figures and others, and major corporations on the being paid. Some could call it bribes, or anyway, paid by China
Yeah.
They're bought and sold for, paid for, sorry. And so it makes it very difficult. So when the Secretary of State says stuff, the Chinese go, that's fine. Just say whatever you have to say. Because in the background, what is really being said? We know in Afghanistan that the Chinese wanted Afghanistan for actually went for oil as well, but the raw materials, the rare metals is what I'm trying to say. And so when you see Joe just handing it to them, basically, and you have to think what's and think of the blackmail that all these countries probably have on Biden and his son.
Okay, now, Bob, when you say blackmail of the Biden family,
Yes.
and I think you're going towards the Biden crime family.
Well, yes, but wait. Republicans too. It's not just him. It's Mitch McConnell and others.
Okay.
It's Mitt Romney. I think Mitt Romney's son was involved in Ukraine, I believe, if I remember correctly. And Nancy Pelosi's son, I believe. All these it doesn't matter, Republican, Democrat, they're all corrupt. That's the sad thing. It's true.
So if they're corrupt, are you saying we don't have the evidence, or we have evidence and we're just covering it up?
Well,
what do you say? Is this a conspiracy theory we're getting into? We won't probably jump into it totally tonight. But what?
We don't have the evidence. You have to see what the results are. Now, I love it when people mention conspiracy theories, because there are conspiracies. That's why there's a word conspiracy. That's why there's a criminal
future
statute.
Shows will have some of those.
Wait a minute. That's why the criminal statute of conspiracy, the Russian collusion hoax is the biggest, nastiest conspiracy that I've seen, and went on for years, and it was all made up. There's many other conspiracies. So there are conspiracies. So a lot of people that will say, "Are you a conspiracy theorist?" And I'm not. I try to look at the facts. Is a way to hush people up, because people are getting money from the Chinese to do certain things. That's why sports figures will say, well, we don't really care about the people in the concentration camps in China because, we're getting money. They don't really say that because they're getting money, but that's obvious. So yes, I don't know exactly what you're, so yes, there are conspiracies. We don't know all of them. So at our level, Phil's level, my level, yours, is try to put together the facts as we see them, knowing what this stuff is in the background.
Okay, Phil?
Okay, I don't know. I'm trying to get the definition of what a conspiracy is, because I think what we're talking about is really personal. We're trying to hide things to get to cover up our personal gain. And I have a hard time believing that people would risk and run the United States into a world catastrophe based on their personal gain like that. And I just don't see it. I mean, we knew that Trump had some dealings with other countries, but I can't feel that Trump would have risked the government, the United States, and not had the best interest of the United States in mind because of his personal gain. At least
I don't. Yeah, I don't see it for Trump, because I'll tell you why. I'm sort of a semi-Trump supporter.
Of all the people in the world, Trump is the most dirty, nasty person in dealing with business, and he was cutthroat. He's cutthroat. So
but here's the big difference between what I'm trying to say, and I think hopefully you'll understand what I'm saying and maybe agree. Trump, whether you like him or not, and I have my feelings about Trump that are not always positive, but that they're not always negative either. But yeah, he has a bad personality. All his stuff dealing with foreign countries was on a business level, like you mentioned, for his personal allurement. That's true, in business. But these other people don't have business backgrounds. Joe Biden has none, and these people basically sold their political positions for money. That's why when Joe Biden was at the University, it was at Pennsylvania, where they set up a special place where China kicked in millions and millions of dollars because he put his name on it, pretended to be a professor, was never really a professor there, ever. So what I'm saying is the politicians who are not businessmen, which includes Republicans, Mitch McConnell, that they are taking money from foreign parties. That's way more dangerous to this country than Trump trying to get a good deal on a golf course in England or somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're not gonna solve all of that in one evening, but I find it very interesting. I do. I find it
That is-
fascinating and interesting. And what I want to do, I want to turn this now.
Well, wait a minute.
Go
one more
ahead,
time.
Phil. Go
One
ahead.
more
Go
time.
ahead.
I want to go
go
back
ahead.
to that China
Yeah.
what,
Okay.
Yes,
what,
thank you.
that China discussion and our reaction to what China is doing. I have a hard time believing that Joe Biden would let his personal interest change, not shadow, but shape the reaction that we're going to have with China based on his personal doings. I just don't.
I would like to think that's true, but unfortunately I don't agree. I mean, by the way, I like Phil his way he analyzes stuff. I really like that a lot. I just want to mention that, Phil.
I do.
I really
I do
enjoy.
too. I like yours.
Well, and yeah, because we're not nasty to each other. We kind of talk about different
Right.
things, and I have strong opinions and stuff. But I like the way your mind is open, and
Okay.
mine is open to different things too. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm not a big fan of Trump for a lot of reasons, but I'm not against him completely either. I'm not a big fan of DeSantis either, but I will always vote Republican, even though the Republicans have disappointed me like 99% of the time. Anyway,
Okay, let me swing this. Let me swing this a little bit into would Biden was the trip to Ukraine more important than going to East Palestine, which I believe he will come back home and go to East Palestine right away.
Yeah. I hope he comes back and goes to Palestine, but like I said, this had.
And we're talking about Palestine, East Palestine, Ohio now for anybody who may be out there.
I think this was planned so far ahead of time, and they made such well-laid plans.
Yes.
That to change it to go to Ohio would have. I mean, it would have been nice and it would have been good, but not as important as this. This is a national thing that he had to address, and he wanted to get this photo op done and show his support. Now, hopefully he comes back and gets right to Ohio. I hope he does that as soon as he possibly can.
Because it's been 18 days. It's been 18 days since the derailment.
Yeah, but has he come back yet from Ukraine?
No.
See,
now
as soon as he comes back,
what I heard,
he's got agencies. Hopefully, he's got his agencies in there doing everything they possibly can. So for him that would be another PR thing. And people will criticize him for being there too. So he can't win no matter where he goes.
I think they're two separate issues. I think the question is not that he went there, but what was the criticality of when there being, Ukraine right now versus we've been there.
It was the 1 year anniversary of the war. It was the 1 year anniversary of the war.
Right.
Okay, but he's also about to announce, allegedly, for running for re-election. So I think that was more the thing. There were other major.
Well, the election's still 2 years off. I mean, everybody has that in mind. Everybody thinks of that in the future.
The election actually is a year and a half from now. The actual election,
and they like to have those ticket punches for sure. When you get on the debate stage,
I mean, Joe Biden isn't even the nominee. I mean, he may not run.
Well, that's going to be another night. I had it here, but we're not going to get to it tonight. But go ahead.
Well, I think the East Palestine thing is more complicated because, I have mixed feelings about politicians showing up and shaking hands because those are photo ops as well.
Right.
But it was a dangerous area. And I think because it was tricky for him to go because they're saying, oh, everything's fine, or sort of saying that, and animals are dying and people are getting very sick. Does the president really want to go there when it's a health problem when they said everybody else within a mile is okay? So that would conflict with what his administration had said. So it's better for him because of what his administration has done, whether right or wrong, to wait a while to go. It's what it's safer.
That's an interesting take because the only guy from the Biden administration has been in there, the highest guy has been the chief of the EPA. Now, Pete, the transportation secretary, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, right? Buttigieg or whatever his name is. He has not been in there. He has not. He says he's going now because I think there's been criticism that he hasn't been there. So I don't know. The governor there. Who's it? Levine, Governor Levine. He's a Republican governor. He was there drinking the water out of people's houses today with other officials.
Now, see, I wouldn't be doing that. I wouldn't be doing that. I'd say let's I know why they do
That's
it.
why you're not a governor, Bob.
That's right. That's why I'm still alive.
Yeah.
So we'll see how all that plays
Pete
out.
Buttigieg has to be there because he's the head of the transportation department, and the train derailed.
Yeah,
He's
but he
responsible
hasn't
for his
gone there.
department.
He hasn't gone there, Phil.
Well, he's got to get there. He's got to get there.
See, my feeling is if it really is dangerous, I don't care, Republican, Democrat, whatever, they should say it is a dangerous area right now. We will send in people like 9/11 into the areas, send people in who are properly trained to do that, properly suited up. I'm sorry for the local people. They really shouldn't be, maybe they should be out 3 miles out or 4, but we should give housing for them temporarily, whatever we need to do. But just admit that it's very dangerous. And we don't want to be sending our secretaries in there or our president there to breathe these chemicals
Well,
and go, hey, we're here.
they're saying it's basically clear. I mean, the governor and other officials, area officials, were in there drinking the water, telling people it's okay, but we'll continue to monitor. They're giving out $1,000 per family or per
I can tell you
person.
about that. Well, I can tell you about that. Do you want to know about that?
What? Yeah.
The $1,000 checks. I listened to a whole show about this. Now, I don't know if it was per person or per house. I think it was per house, but that's not coming from the government. That's coming from the railroad, and they're
From
making
Norfolk Southern. Yeah, it's coming from Norfolk Southern.
Yeah, but it's nasty because they made the people sign. Now, I'm just telling you what I heard. I'm not there.
No lawsuits.
They made them sign that you're not going to sue for anything more than this, $1,000. And these people are very poor there, so they go, I have to buy food. I can't. So they take the $1,000.
I don't think that's going to stand up when the lawsuits come, because the lawsuits are definitely coming. Okay,
yes, but they got people.
Yeah,
they
I'm going to put.
Okay, we're trying to get
you may have heard it on the radio station, but I have a hard time believing that many people would have accepted $1,000 in lieu of suing. Because
I don't know how many.
They're all going to sue.
Well, the whole point, the thing was, I don't know how many, and that's accurate. I do not know. And the show I heard was very good, but the thing was, they did sign these. Some of the people signed these because they were so poor. I mean, really poor people there, and they needed the money just to be able to buy food or whatever they needed. $1,000 is more than zero, but they had to sign away their right to sue. Now, my feeling is, the courts might overturn that, but it was under tremendous duress. But that's what they did.
I kept thinking of. Remember back when we were 30 years ago in Bhopal, India? Remember the Union Carbide?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
but it woke up 600, 700 people wake up. Wake up. They all died, and they gave people there like $3,000 each, and that was it.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. We've got let's see, the Insider's joining us. Thanks for joining us tonight, Mr. Insider. He says, just rename Ohio to Ukraine and things will get sorted out very quickly.
Yes. Good point.
That's a good point. Good point from the Insider there. So we're going to follow that story as well. There's so many stories, you can't handle them. Yeah. Okay, so
now,
I want to
now wait a minute before you leave that. Now, why do you think this is such a big story? Do you think it's such a distrust of government and the agencies that this is gonna go on for a long time because of people's distrust there? That they think that the cancer is going to be such a major problem in 30 or 40 years. And so.
Well, or is it, and I hate to say this, now these people have to protect themselves, and I'd be thinking the same way. I'm sure now it's starting to spread across the border. I think they said Pennsylvania or a bordering state, wherever the cloud went.
Traces of it, yeah.
Is everybody starting to call in now looking for a check?
Well, the people do not trust the government. No, after the Russian collusion hoax that went on for about 4 years, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and so, and they lie about, and you have a president.
Bob, you forgot the election fraud too. We'll cover that another night.
Well, yeah, but you have a president who lies about where he went, what he accomplished in school, that he was involved in the civil rights, which he wasn't, and that he was arrested in Africa, which he wasn't. So he lies about practically everything he says. So why would you believe him on anything? Anything. Okay. I'm not making this up, and you know it.
I know that people, when they are elected to office, they rely on those kind of, I don't know, impressions, being reelected. That's their job, their career. But the people who go into these places, They are trying to do their job, and they are really dedicated employees. And I have a hard time believing that those people would lie that they're saying, I don't detect anything here. Why would I lie about that? Why would I
When you,
say that?
when you
Because
saw
it's
the
not because of
lies,
a president. It's not because of a president who is trying to run for re-election. I've got a job to do, and I want to make sure I do my job. And my
it's
supervisor is looking. Everybody answers to somebody. The politicians don't. That's the problem. The politicians may have influence on these people, but very rarely. When I
I
worked in
think
state
that
government, I didn't have a governor telling me what to do. I did my job, and I made sure people got their services. And you were in government too. You made
yeah.
sure you did your job.
Well, sometimes there's a message that the administration wants put out. There's talking points that are put out. And I think that's the argument. And Phil's trying to say, we may go in and say, hey, I'm not going to go with the talking points. If it's still poison there, then I'm going to say that's what it is. But
Okay.
there's a lot of pressure sometimes to just go with the message.
Well, absolutely. There's cover-ups. Of course, we all know cover-ups throughout the history of our government. There's been cover-ups, but
If you got to remember too, people have been through the COVID hoaxes and all the lies. People saying if you get the shot, you won't get COVID, which was a lie. And then people said if you get the shot, you won't transmit COVID, which was now a lie. It's been determined to be a lie. And if you get, it just goes on and on, and so they're discussing. There's lie fatigue here with
yeah.
this administration more than any I've had in my entire lifetime, which is a long time, and I'm disgusted with it.
The insider says media microscope. You're just hearing about it because it's being covered. That's going to transition us into our final subject tonight, and that is it's being covered when the balloons got shot down. Okay. So I want to talk about Balloon Gate here for a couple of minutes and get your opinions on what the hell is going on with these balloons. Phil, take it away.
Me? I see it's all being top secret myself. I really don't think that the government wants to release anything yet. Until they know more about what they've shot down and analyze the things, it's really none of you hope the government's doing you have to trust that the military and intelligence community will do their jobs and analyze it and present it to the people at some point. This is what we found. But I think it's way too soon so far. I just do.
Do you believe, Bob, your thoughts?
Okay, my thoughts are pretty much along the lines of Phil's, that we don't really know very much about this balloon situation. There's information that is classified. There are CYAs going on. For example, the government eventually said, oh, we were tracking this since it was launched in China. Well, what I believe they did, with no evidence whatsoever, I'm going to say this, that they used our technology, NSA and others, to go and to reach back, when they found this, to reach back to see where this came from based on the already recorded data. And it launched from here, making it sound like they followed it from the beginning. I do not believe they did, but they're saying they did. But whatever the story is, none of us can really discuss this intelligently because we don't know enough information to do so.
You're never going to know. You're never going to really know.
Right. Well, hopefully it comes out.
Right.
I mean, but right now it's got to be top
Well,
secret.
no, I don't know. We never know. We don't know that.
It might even. Is it new technology?
Unless there's an investigation and hearings, we may get more of the story. But I haven't heard they're doing anything like that. Have you yet? Any of you guys?
Still too soon. It's still too soon. And you hope that the military, is it new technology? Have they discovered any new technology there that they don't want to share with the public? I don't know. They want to analyze it some more.
We do know it's Chinese because the Chinese claimed it. They said it was theirs.
They did, yeah.
So we know that because they could have said, that's not ours. And then so we know that. We know that they were spying with it because they went the places they went. But why we let it spy and then go, well, we shut it down so now we can pick up the stuff. No, they're transmitting it real time. The information's transmitted. It's already gone to China.
he
And
probably should
so,
have shot it down earlier. But
yeah.
it was. I think it was the military people that were telling him you can't do it over populated areas, right?
Well,
So,
I think it was a little embarrassing, to be honest, that it entered airspace which we hold sacred. You know, we hold sacred to our national
Yeah.
security, that our airspace and water space around the country is sacred territory for us. So I think they got caught. I think there was a little embarrassing because it was some civilian on the ground that took a picture of this thing and it blew up in the press. So, you know, the question was, it was just kind of brought up at a press conference. They weren't even briefing on it until it was brought up. Okay. And I think it was John Kirby that addressed it initially. But, you know, here's my concern is, what were these two other objects that were shot down that we can't recover, 2 or 3 that we can't recover? And the president did say, and it did say, well, I'm sure they weren't harmful, but we don't know what the hell they were. I don't know how anybody can say that, to be honest.
Well,
you know who gains by this is the UFO conspiracy people, who say now they're not even telling us what they shot down. They're saying they didn't recover any of it, which seems hard to believe. That plays right into them, and I'm sure they're enjoying that.
One entity, it was some scholars or students or something that had a $10 or $12 balloon that all of a sudden disappeared around the time this one was one of them was shot down. So it's pretty much certain that was a school balloon, if not a formal school, some kind of organization of people that were using it as a weather balloon. Small.
I'm hoping that the intelligence community has some background in informing the military. Hey, this doesn't seem to be something that we need to worry about right this second. And the military then suggests to the president, why risk shooting it down over a populated area?
I agree with that. I agree with that, Phil.
It's not really as new or something we don't know about already.
Right. I don't disagree with the point that once it came over potentially dangerous land where it could injure or hurt people, then we have to figure out. And as soon as it got off the coast, they took it down, which I think they had to do it.
Is it really that new that we don't know about it? But I don't know. Maybe it is.
They're not going to give probably not going to give any updates in the near future, because if they do get all the technology from it, whatever it is, it's going to be mostly classified. They don't need to share with the Chinese what we know that was in there. I mean, it's just it doesn't help the government to tell everybody, every mom and pop sitting around by their TV, what's in that, unless it's just unimportant stuff.
Well,
you know, which they're probably going to say anyway. They're probably going to say, "Oh, it was really nothing. We knew everything we knew. We already knew about it." So that's the story that's going to come out. So,
it's interesting
whether it's true or not. That's the story.
Yeah, that's right.
There's clearly, there's clearly some gaps there that need to be filled. I think, there's clearly some gaps that need to be filled there, and I think they are going to have some kind of inquiries, congressional inquiries, on this matter. But okay, I'm going to turn it over for final comments before we close out tonight. We've had a good roundtable of discussion here. Yeah. There's so many topics that can be covered, and I hope that you guys will come back and join in on the program again as we move forward into the future, because there's going to be a lot of issues. So I'll go with Phil first. Phil, closing statements.
Well, I said before the show, to Bob and you, Wilby, that I was going to explain why I picked the name Patriot Phil, because I am a Patriots fan, and that's one thing. But I wanted to show, I think a lot of people will latch on to the word patriot and think, well, you got to be on one side of the aisle. And I don't believe that's the case. I think everybody has to realize that we are all patriots, and we are all trying to work together to make this country better. And we maybe have different opinions about certain things, but our goal, and we all have to agree that we want this country to be better. People are still trying to get to this country. It's still the best country in the world. And people are risking their lives to come here. And that's what we should all want. We want to improve this country, and we may want a different president, we may want different representatives, but we want to get to that end goal. Okay?
Okay, good. Phil, Bob,
Well,
closing statements.
Well, I want to say the insider's making pretty good comments. I know we can't address them all, but he's made some pretty good comments. I've read.
Yes, he has.
Yeah, I agree with Phil. I just think things are. Most of the people who are Democrats, I would say, are good people who mean well, but their party has been taken over by lunatics, in my view, okay, by some far left people that say, yeah, kill the kids up until birth and maybe even after birth. I mean, just wild stuff that just a few years ago, they'd be going, what the hell is happening? This is not John Kennedy's party anymore. So to me, that is the big threat to the future.
We don't have Dwight Eisenhower leading the Republicans anymore either. So we have to agree that politicians, we've corrupted that system in terms of being reelected, and we have to look at term limits, and we have to look at other things. And I agree with you, Bob, totally. Yeah.
So I mean, there's some things the Republicans do, like see, the Democrats are more organized than the Republicans. Even at the lower levels, the Republicans will criticize Democrats, but they'll also criticize the Republicans as much as the Democrats. I mean, I talk to a lot of Republicans, and the Democrats, at least as a group, seem to just, well, whatever the Democrats do, we support them. And I'm not saying you, but I mean, when I read online, but read different things, the Democrats are supporting, just like like I call them lemmings, because it's just everything, and the news media and everything. But the Republicans are not like that. We're all, it's something like that reminds me of the 1800s, 1700s. We're all over the place and fighting with each other. But I kind of like that, because that's real America. We have rhinos, and then we have just Republicans that are not rhinos, but they're just nothing. They're just there to get a paycheck, and who do I vote for? Tell me who to vote for. I mean, they don't do anything. So a lot of Republicans.
Are you talking about that Republican out of New York who made up everything on his career sheet?
No, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking. No, actually, I had no problem with him, except when I found out that he conned some people out of charitable causes. But with him,
well, they would have the Republicans would have kicked him out, but they need his vote. You would agree with that?
Well, I think they need his vote, but I think he sits there as a symbol of all the lies, that the Democrats have done. So how can you say we have to kick him out without kicking? I think we should keep him there to say we'll kick him out, but if we can, let him know if we can. But you have to kick out all your liars, of which there's massive ones on the Democrat side, because especially Russian collusion hoax people. And so I don't have a problem with him, except he's got no morals of any kind, and he's kind of a scumbag.
Yeah. Besides that, hey, listen, I want to thank both you, Bob, and Patriot Phil, for joining me here on Defense of America tonight.
A pleasure.
I do hope you guys will come back and be regulars if possible. I know everybody's busy and everybody's got different schedules. We don't set a schedule here when we feel like we pop on. But for any viewers out there, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that comment button, leave us some comments. This will roll out now out on YouTube world, and we hope that it will catch a little bit of moss and build a little bit slowly, because this group of people here is a diverse group. We have diverse opinions, but that's what makes America best, and that's what will defend America, is diverse opinions and thoughts and feelings brought together in a discourse of positivity and everybody airing it out. So I want to thank you guys.
Absolutely,
thanks for joining us, everybody out there. We'll be back. Look for us soon, and we will on Twitter as well, so you can reach us out there anytime as well. Thanks a lot. Everybody have a great night and have a safe day, and God bless America. Bye-bye.
Thank you both. Thank you both.
All right.